Now, Coach said, I think that one of the things he noticed about you was at camp recently. And I think I don't know if you expect that, but he said he thought you were one of the better guys at working with guys at camp. What goes in that? Is that something you enjoy? Or?
Oh yeah, I love working with kids. Anything to help kids out, I love doing. I'm really passionate about youth development in sports,
Yep.
and being at that camp was a very good experience for me, at least.
Is that something you think you might want to go into?
Definitely.
Once your playing days are over. It's
Definitely.
Gonna be a while though. The way it looks, right? So you are coming out of spring the fastest man on the Louisville football team.
Oh man,
and that's a tough title to hold with some of the guys out here. But let's talk about what you've done in the off season to kind of get yourself, coming off a great season, to take it even another step up.
Well, pretty much I've been working really hard, in the weight room, outside of the weight room, make sure I focus on my core strength, flexibility, all key components to being faster. Ultimately trying to improve my game because, I know that each year, we come closer and closer to being in a national championship. And, with doing that, that helps put the team in a better position to be there,
What was it like for you? I mean, you burst on the national scene really last year. Had that big game against Florida State, big return. When you return one against them, everybody's, that opens a lot of eyes. And then back that up with that Clemson game, and your numbers all year, punt return, defense. What was the year like for you? Because it was a rush for everybody around here. Just, I don't think we've ever seen anything like it in that, that run up to the end of the season. What was it like for you personally?
Well, it was a crazy experience, running back that punt return at Florida State. I think a lot of things changed since then, for the better. Before doing that, it was okay, like as far as the flow of the game and stuff. But once that happened, it just boosted my confidence, boosted my morale, and shoot, it was just exciting, really. The fans rushed the field, and it was almost like I was in some kind of movie or something, some kind of football movie. I don't know. Is there, where the cameras? It was exciting though.
And then, you guys, how much do you think this team benefited from just going through all that, the build up, the national hype, all of that stuff, which, if you win early in the season again, you're going to have again this season. How much do you think that matured this group, just having gone through everything, even the end of the season?
Yeah, pretty much just like a trial and error for us. I feel like, we started off hot, got the publicity that, we wanted. But, coming at the end of the season, we fell short. And, that was not our ultimate goal. And knowing that and knowing how good we were, how we started the season off at the beginning of the year, and if we can keep that same pace that, maintain, then, sky's the limit. And that really boosted our confidence, especially going into this year, knowing what we can do and what we have coming back.
Now, you put up, your kind of interception numbers and pass breakup numbers. You start to see the ball less, I imagine, as the season goes on. How does this defensive, is there much change on defense in terms of system with a new coordinator over there? And how does your approach maybe change this year because they're looking for you, whenever they drop back?
Oh, well, as far as my approach this season, I just got to contribute in other areas. Coach Petrino tells me that I may not get as many passes my way, but, I have to make my ends meet somewhere else, whether that be punt return or kick return, just whatever I can do to be a factor in the team, As far as the scheme and play calling, it's similar concepts, it's the overall defense is a little different, which I like it, it allows us as a defense to do multiple things in different ways. But as far as the terminology, it's a little different, but it's similar,
Yeah, you're a cornerback. Eventually, you're going to have to take your man and not let him catch the ball.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of systems change, but for you, I know there's zones and all that stuff, but still the number one job is always the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine, I don't know Coach Sherman's very well, but I would imagine it's a little different from him and Coach Grantham out there in terms of demeanor and volume and everything else. I don't know, but what's that been like, just kind of with a different tone maybe from the coach?
Okay, well, as far as, Coach Sherman goes, he's a really great coach. He really works with us. He really takes his time. He always say that he doesn't know what we don't know. So, in order for him to know, we must ask. And, he really works with us. He's a real players coach, and that's really helped, build the character of our defense.
Now, what's been your kind of focus? You're in kind of the same situation with Lamar as you come off a great season and you got to push yourself to try and be better. What have you done this off season to try and kind of improve yourself physically and as a football player? How have you worked on that?
Well, it's just like I said earlier, just really working on different elements of my body at least. Not always necessarily lifting the heaviest, but maybe doing some grip strength throughout the day or something. Maybe playing with a tennis ball. Watching a lot of film. That's one thing I look to improve upon is my film study and film knowledge of the game.
And you spend a lot of time in the film with your own film. You watch yourself. You watch other offenses.
No.
Or how do you do that?
Actually, I watch some of the best wideouts.
Yep.
I YouTube all the videos. Some of the best wideouts in the league, like Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, and it's funny because you watching. Some people, oh, you're DB. Why aren't you watching the defensive back highlights? But I'd rather watch the best wideouts to see what what I'm saying. Cause
that's what the wideouts are watching, and that's what you're going to see. You're
right.
trying to do the same thing.
Right. I'm trying to capitalize off their mistakes. Off the defensive back mistakes on the wideouts videos. So I like to watch the best wideouts.
Yeah, that's interesting. You gotten bigger a little bit.
Yeah.
But you got faster too. How's that work?
Shoot, it's a good feeling. Hard work pays off.
Yeah.
I wake up one morning, go in the mirror, and say, "Whoo, maybe linebacker. Who knows?"
Toss that out there. See what they do. The punt return part of the game is almost a bonus, but it's a huge part of your game. I mean, you're right. You're like top 15 in the country punt return average, and you brought one back for touchdown. You nearly broke a lot more. I know. How much do you work on that specifically as a skill in addition to what you're doing at corner?
Well, normally, first of all, I want to give a lot of credit to the other 10 guys out there with me, because it all starts really with them. Ultimately, I just run the ball, honestly. But with that blocking, shout out to you all. But in practice, I catch a punt, run it to the end zone each time, just to get my conditioning up, because practice is pretty hard. So if I can do it hard in practice while I'm tired, in the game it'll be much easier, and ultimately that's how I'm able to, do what I can out there.
I don't know how much little kids they probably know who you are at this point when they come in. In any event, you're a Division I football player and you're working with these kids in camp. What can you tell them out of your experience? What are you trying to share with these kids that are in here? Are there any specific things?
Yeah, actually, it doesn't really matter about your rankings, your ratings. You can throw all that out the window. Basically, it's just really about how you perform when you get to that level that you're at. It's really about how you perform, how you handle adversity. You just should block out noise, block out negativity. People count you out all your life, but sometimes you got to push through and prevail, and keep your head up, and things turn for the better eventually.
Yeah. I don't think any of us that covered this team for a long time and have seen anything like what happened last season in terms of all the excitement around it when it was going. As the season went on, the wins piled up. You went through that. How hungry does it make you to get back there again and write a different finish?
Man, it's just like each year, I progress as a player, and that always builds confidence. Even since ever since high school, each year has always been a better year, and knowing the season I had last year, with the help of my teammates, this gonna be even better one, and that's the goal I'm going for, and that's the goal that the rest of my teammates are going for, is to be better than last year.
Who looks good?
Everybody looking good. Everybody looking good.
Defensively, I mean, you got some new faces. You got some guys back, which I know is huge. How do you feel about this defensive unit as they're coming together?
I feel good about the defensive unit. Playbook not as complex as Grantham, so it's much easier to, catch on, get the hang of things once you categorize them in a certain area. you know, okay, oh, I got this on this one. Okay, I got this on this play, you know, and ultimately it's coming together pretty smoothly.
Yeah. Good deal, man.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah, testing.